I'm at Sue's place now, and we're going to look at brewing Aerobic Compost Tea. Sue, can you tell us why you brew the tea?
Well, as you can see here, I've got huge gum trees, I've got a mango tree and banana trees, and they all compete for the moisture and the nutrients in the soil. So it's really hard work to get much growing very successfully.
And you've got a solution, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I've decided that I wanted to do it economically because this is a rental property. So I've decided that I would actually brew my teas and work with the microbes and the fungi that come naturally to the soil that will actually hopefully help keep all my plants really healthy while they're competing with these trees.
Well, that's interesting, and I see that you've had some great success with this.
Love it. It's been really brilliant. I no longer have any viruses on my pawpaws. I have much healthier soil, which all of my garden is only 3 years old. And I haven't dug any of the soil. So the microbes have actually helped me build a garden that would probably not be here otherwise.
Well, that's really great because, like me, I don't like digging the soil. I'm getting on in years a bit too, and digging over the soil is really back-breaking work.
Me too.
But that's great because if we can employ nature to work the soil rather than digging and also disturbing the fungi and breaking up the worms in the soil, isn't it better to let the microbes do the work?
Absolutely. It's just proved to be an amazing journey, something that I never expected to happen. But it's very economical as well because you're only using the same things but you're improving on what you're using by using these teas. So why wouldn't you?
Well, exactly. I totally agree with you there. Now, can you explain to everyone how you go about this process?
Right. I use what fertilisers I use: grow and seaweed and biota booster, and especially my worm castings, and I make a beautiful tea. And in that tea I make these rice bags. Now the rice bags are used for an inoculant. I hang them in the tea while it's brewing, and all of that rice becomes inoculated with the microbes, so that when I go to plant a tree, or I want to plant my tomatoes in this case, I'm going to have all of those microbes feeding on that rice ball, which will then be buried in the soil next to what I'm trying to grow, and it makes the root ball twice the size, so you're going to get a much better result.
Wow.
And I'm hoping that it will actually resolve the issues that I'm having growing or trying to grow tomatoes with a nutrient deficient soil. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, but you also told me before that you use it as a foliar spray?
I do. I foliar spray everything in the garden by using a bit of my compost tea once it's brewed. I put some in my 5-litre foliar spray, pump action spray, and I can do all of my little garden here with that 5 litres. It will cover everything, including the mango tree, which no longer has any disease on it either.
Right, so the results are already telling.
Oh, no virus on the pawpaws. My pawpaws are pure, there's no marks on them. Everything that you put it on seems to jump and say, yay!
And you were also telling me about your red pawpaws and the difficulty I have growing red pawpaws at my place.
Well, I started with a red pawpaw tree and wasn't having much success and was really cheesed off. And I thought, well, so I did some research, found these subtropical fruit growers on Google and read some of the stuff about that, and they suggest putting a lot of lime on it. They're very hungry lime feeders. And I did that, and then I foliar sprayed them, including the trunks, with all of this beautiful tea. And it seems to have given me a beautiful tree with no markings on it. It's also healthy now and loaded with fruit.
Well, it makes me want to try growing red pawpaws again after my abysmal failures in the past.
You're going to have to, Elizabeth.
Yes.
You're going to have to try it.
Oh, that's great. Well, let's get started by making a brew.
Let's go. Right, well, we're here ready to start the brew. We're just going to go through the things that I use in mine. Yours might be different, but this is where I've succeeded in doing it in my own small way. So, first of all, I chased around looking for a pump and some sort of equipment and found it very difficult until I actually come across a brewing kit at Nutritech Solutions. The little pump and stuff, and the pot cost me $40, along with, it's a fish pump with a double outlet. So that's what you need. You may have one of these at home from a fish tank that you've had at some stage, but I didn't, so I had to go and buy one. So Nutritech came with a kit. So that's the microbes it comes with. You get the microbes, the pump, and the drum, which is okay. And I find 20 litres is quite adequate for the garden, for the brewing. I don't think you really need to do any more than that at any one time. Otherwise it's too heavy to move around, and I really can't lift things. So this is within my capabilities.
Isn't it great that you're doing all this for old ladies like me?
Oh, and old ladies like me too. I'm coming close to 70, so
oh, you're kidding!
It makes a difference.
Oh, good on you!
I want to keep doing this, so it has to be manageable, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what we've got to start with. So we're going to take our lid off here. You have to do your brewing somewhere where you've got a power point, so that you can plug the pump in, because we're going to aerate our brew for 24 hours minimum. So we're just going to plug it in. We won't switch it on yet because we're not ready. So we just plug that in, ready for afterwards. So we're going through the things that I use. Most important is my worm castings that I've just put in this old stocking with something to hang it with. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang all of these brew bags on there, and it's going to hang on there and go in my pot so that the brew bag will inoculate the brew. Okay?
Well, it is a tea, isn't it?
It's a tea.
With a tea bag.
It's a giant tea bag. I don't think I'd like to drink that tea.
No, but the plants are going to, and the soil is going to.
Yes. So, the next thing, most important thing, is molasses. I buy my molasses at the local produce store. It's very cheap when you can get it. It's only a couple of dollars. I think it's a couple of dollars, $3 or something for 2 litres at your local produce store. In season too. I think it is more of a seasonal thing when the cane's being harvested. So I buy it like that. It usually comes in a milk container. I've learnt not to keep it in the milk container because the milk container dissolves. So it's now in a yogurt container.
Yeah.
So, and it needs to be vermin proof.
Oh, okay.
So I've got probably 2 cups or maybe a cup and a half of molasses there. And what I will do is I will mix that with water. I won't put that straight into the brew because it's too thick, and I need to water it down so that it mixes through the whole brew really well so that it feeds the microbes. So that's the first one. I use Grow in my garden. It's an organic a bioorganic, and it's fermented from chook poo, I think, if I remember rightly. So I use this in the garden all the time as my growing medium for my foliar feeding to combat the big gum trees.
Did you get that from people in your mundi?
I buy, the particular reason I buy this is we saw it at
our permaculture meeting.
But
I recognise it.
The reason I use this is that originally it cost me $16.80, but now once I've used it, I can take it back and refill it for $7.
I remember that. Yeah, expensive bottle, isn't it?
Well, for me, I use probably one of these a month.
Ooh.
$7 for my foliar feeding in my garden, I think is very reasonable.
Absolutely.
So that's another reason, and I've found it very successful. Sea salt, because it is for the nutrients in the garden, it's not a growing medium. It's more to make the cells in the plant really, really healthy. It makes them immune to a lot of disease and stuff like that. So this is really, really important.
So sea salt...
It's a conditioner more than a grower. It's not.
But sea salt, like Natrikelp, anything in the sea, they have growth promoters.
That's right.
Gibberellins.
Yeah. So it's a garden treatment rather than a fertiliser.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what makes the plants really strong
and
repel insects, keeps the balance good. So I use that. I'm using this because I've still got some humus. When I bought my brewing kit, I bought a whole kit of all their things, and this is instant humus, so I continue to use this, and it goes in the soil to bring the worms, and it's just a little granulated thing. So, but it takes a while to dissolve, and you dissolve a couple of teaspoons in 9 litres of water. So what I've done, I've put my 4 teaspoons in there and put some water on it to help dissolve it, because it takes a long time to dissolve. So it's just been sitting there for about an hour, and hopefully there probably will still be some sitting in the bottom of the bucket when it's brewed. But I can tip that on the garden later.
Yeah.
Okay? That's a little bit of preparation you have to do beforehand. I bought some liquid potash just recently. Don't normally put this in, but I'm going to add it this time because it's just an easy way to put it all together on the garden. And last but not least, we'll move over here. And I've cooked up 3 cups of rice. Doesn't matter what sort, home brand will do. And I've used the absorption method. So it's 3 cups of rice to 4.5 cups of water. So if you look on the packet of your rice, it'll tell you how to do that. And all I've done is bring it to the boil and turned it off. It doesn't need to be fully cooked. All it needs to be is softened, so it'll absorb more of your nutrients out of your worm tea. Now we're going to start assembling the brew. First things first, put an apron on, because the molasses stains everything permanently, to my disgust. I now have a lot of white t-shirts with big brown stains all over them. So, okay, first thing is the molasses needs to be thinned out. So I've got some warm water here, and I'm just going to pour that in there. The molasses. Okay, next thing is the stockings. I'm using old stockings. All I'm doing is cutting them off.
I hope they are old, because you won't be wearing them again.
Well, it could be interesting. My legs might grow another foot if I've got 6 bags. That'll go down anyway when it's ready. Very elegant. Something new to do with your stockings.
Yes, it's
You
glamorous.
could almost have a Christmas tree with them on there. How about that? Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is attach them with a tie, like we've got on the worm castings. So we're just going to put a bit of, and that's just blue cord from a hay bale.
I recognise
I
that.
reuse everything.
Yes.
So going to put a cord on every one of them. Right, we're ready to start brewing now. There's one more nutrient that I use that I've found very successful in the garden, and that's the biota booster. They're beneficial garden microbes. I love this product. It's been extremely successful. Okay.
And where do you get that?
Actually, one of our members at Permaculture Noosa is the outlet for all of this, and you can buy it at Sours in Karoi. It's about $35 for that little bottle, and that little bottle is enough microbes to do 500 square metres. Will inoculate your soil with microbes over a 500 square metre area. Brilliant. I use this for growing all my seedlings. I inoculate all my seedlings, I water it, I do a foliar feed and I water it, and I find that I get a much healthier seedling that are more pest and disease resistant. And you get a healthier soil. The reason that you brewed this up and the 24-hour period is up and you're ready to use it, and something crops up and you don't get a chance to use it, you can brew it for another 24 hours but add more molasses. Add the same amount of molasses again, because you've got to continue to feed the microbes. Otherwise they'll all die off in there and you've wasted your efforts. So you can extend the life so long as you're feeding them. Give it all a good stir around.
That's a very black brew you've got now.
And that's what I say, it's black gold. But what it does for the plants is miraculous. So we're improvising here, and we've got something to tie our brews on. So we're going to put these on. We want to tie all of these to the thing so that they're suspended in the brew, so that the air is going around. Right, we've got all of our rice bags plus our worm castings all suspended on my improvised stick, which is my spade. So now we're going to put it in the water. And one thing that's important about when you're brewing, it's important about not using town water straight from the tap. I'm using tank water, so I can use mine straight from the tap. But if you're using town water, it'll have chlorine in it. So you need to fill your bucket 24 hours before and leave it out in the sun to help get rid of all the chlorine, because the chlorine will not brew microbes.
That's a good point you have there.
Absolutely. You can waste all your efforts and you'll wonder why it doesn't work. Doesn't matter what you do, the chemicals will kill it, because that's what chlorine does. So right, we're ready to go, and we're almost finished this section of that brewing for today. All we're going to do now is immerse this in the bucket, and then we're going to put the pump in it. So we're just going to put it in here. So now I'm just going to put the lid. I'm not going to exclude the air, because that would be defeating the purpose of putting the air in there. So all I'm doing is stopping it from spitting out over the top. So that's just going to go on there. And we're finished for this part of it. It's now going to brew for 24 hours. Gets lots of froth on it. And that's the aeration causing all the bubbles on the top. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, now we're going to take the pump out and switch it off for the moment. And these are the things we're going to use to put it into the garden. We've got a saucer You need something to put it on because it will stain. If you put it down on any tiles or anything, it'll stain. So you do need something to put it on. We're going to use a bucket to apply it to the garden, and we're also going to use the spray to do the foliar spray. So this is our bags we made with the rice and also the worm castings. They look a little bit ugly, but that's liquid gold. Just let some of the moisture drain off it so we don't. Okay, so we're going to undo them off the. I might just. Right, we've used the first rice bag with all its beautiful microbes and that in on the tomato. Another way I use them is if I'm planting fruit trees or anything that might be a perennial. The fruit trees, if you bury the rice bag at the base when you're actually planting your fruit trees out, it will actually help build the root ball on your tree to make it survive a lot better. It can double the size of the root ball. So experiment. It's about experimentation and keep watching to see what happens.